Hi jazz guitar enthusiasts around the world, Sandra Sherman here. Greetings from Austria. In this jazz guitar lesson, I'm going to be teaching you some nice Dorian licks for the 5th pattern. At the end, we'll connect these lines to an 8-bar solo. I'll explain how I create those Dorian licks and show you the relationship between the scale, the chord, and the arpeggio, because I want you to know what you're doing and not just play any licks by heart. I'm going to show everything slow and detailed note for note. There is a slow tempo version of each line I play and the entire solo at the end of the lesson. I have tabs, and I created a tab, and I have backing tracks so you can jam along, and you find the link to those down below in the description box. All right, a lot to do. Let's get started. So first, let's take a look at our chord, scale, and arpeggio relationship in that pattern. So I am in the 5th area. I have my D minor 7 chord here on the A string is the root. 5, 7, 5, 6, 5. That's the D minor 7 chord. And to this chord, we have the 5th shape of the D Dorian scale. Here would be the root, but this is the first note in that area that I can play. 5, 7, 8, 5, 7, 8, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, 5, 6, 8, 5, 7, 8. All right, so you can play all those notes whenever you see a D minor 7 chord, because D minor 7 chord is the chord related to the D Dorian scale. If it's the 2nd degree of the scale, Dorian always means we're at the 2nd degree of a scale, so C would be the 1st, that's the original key, C major, and on the 2nd degree we get a D minor 7, so when you see that, you can play D Dorian. All right, but we cannot just play any random notes of this scale. We can, but it wouldn't sound very good, so we want to target those chord tones. That means we want to land on the chord tones, and the chord tones are the arpeggio. So we start the arpeggio, that's the chord actually, played one after another, one note after another. On the 5th of the D, that's the root. The 3rd is here on the 8th fret. The 5th is on the 7th of the D string. The 7th of the chord is on the 5th of the G string. So this is basically a D minor 7 chord. Then we continue our 2nd octave. Here's the root again on the 7th. 3rd, the 5th, that's the 5th of the E string, and the 7th of the chord is the 8th of the E string. So this is our arpeggio. And also these 2 notes, we have them on the low E string also. Now you can land on each of these tones, so you can kind of noodle around in your scale and land, which means last longer, on one of the chord tones from the arpeggio, okay? Now let's learn some licks, and I'll explain everything in detail while I show you those licks, okay? Here we go. And here's the first line. I'm gonna play through it quickly so you can hear what it sounds like, and then I'll show you note for note. 1, 2, 3. Alrighty. I target that D root note on the 5th of the A string, and I do that by a very common thing. I embellish it. I play around it. I start with a scale tone above, that's the E. Then a chromatic from above, that's the E flat. Chromatic from below, that's the D flat. And then the target note, that's the D. So what we get is, and we have 3 pickup notes. And so we need to start on count 3 and 1, 2, 3, and sorry, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1. Then I play the 7th, 8, 7 of D, 7 of G. And what is this? These 3 are a triad, D minor triad inversion, and I play them as a triplet. Triplet, so it's a little faster. Then I go to the 9th of the chord, that's the 5th of the B string. Then the 3rd of the chord, and I pull off to the 5 of E of the B string. Then I go to that C sharp, and that C sharp doesn't belong to the scale. It's a chromatic, and it leads me back to the D. This is what I do. And now I play that arpeggio up, and voila, there we go, right? Now let's listen to it at a little slower tempo with the playback. Now let's check out the second line. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right, our first target note is the 5th of the chord, and that's the 5 of E, the A. All right, we have scale tone from above and chromatic from below and into the target note. So these are just 2 notes, so we start on count number 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. Then I have a chromatic going to the avoid note. This is the 6th of the scale, and that's the avoid note. What is an avoid note? An avoid note is always lies next to an important chord tone. The D minor 7 has the 7th here, that's the C, and the avoid note lies right next to it, that's the 6th. So, but what does it mean? Avoid note means not that you have to avoid it totally and not play it, because it's a very important note. It gives us the color of the Dorian scale. So if you don't play it at all, you couldn't differentiate between Dorian or Aeolian. It's just one note different. So you want to play it, but you don't want to land on it. All right? So then I go to the 8th of the B string. And now back to the 5th of the E. And now I kind of embellish this chord. So A, F, down to the 9th of the chord, that's the E, and to the root. And we continue by embellishing that target note here. Scale tone above, chromatic, which is also a scale tone below, to the target note. And the last tone is the 5th of the chord, that's the A. Now let's listen to it at slow tempo with the playback. All right, and let's listen to line number 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, that's an interesting one because I wanted to include some focusing on the avoid note, which I just told you not to do. I know, but I want to show you that breaking the rules is part of jazz, and particularly focusing a little bit more on the avoid notes is American East Coast style, so East Coast jazz. So we want to learn that too. We start on the avoid note. That's the fourth of the G string. The B is the avoid note, the sixth of the scale. Then I go up actually the melodic minor scale, which is nothing else but a Dorian scale with a major 7 in it. Here would be the flat 7, and this is the major 7. To the root, the ninth of the chord. 6, 8, 5, 8. Here's the regular 7th again. So it's a mix between melodic minor and Dorian. And I have a triplet in there. I start on one and triplet. So that's an interesting rhythm also. It's very jazz, a good jazz phrasing. 3, 4, 1. And now I go to that avoid note, the 6th of the scale. I slide into it twice. And then I resolve it by playing backwards the arpeggio. 5, 6, 7. That's the minor chord, A, F, D. And so I resolved that. Those avoid notes, all right? Now let's listen to that line at slow tempo. And here is the last line for today. Let's hear it. 1, 2, 3. All right, I have my target tone here this time, the 5th of the chord, that's the A. And I start from the C sharp. Why do I do this? This is rather far away. It's 4 semitones apart, but the line before ended on the root. So I just go to the next tone, to the chromatic tone. I pull off to the 7th of the chord, that's the 5th of the G string. Chromatic above, and here's my target tone. So lines 3 and 4 are kind of connected together. There's just a little pause. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1. Now I start a triplet by forming an A minor 7 chord. Arpeggio, sorry. C, E, that's the 5th of the B string, and the G. A, C, E, G. And why do I play an A minor 7 arpeggio over a D minor 7? Because it sounds interesting. Because what notes do I get in terms of relationship to the root? I get the 5th, the 7th, the 9th, and here I have nice coloring tone, the 9th, and the 11th. So I get an additional 9th and an 11th to my regular D minor 7 chord. All right, 2, 3. Now I use that chromatic to go to my next target tone, the 3rd of the chord, that's an F. And now I play an arpeggio, F, A, C. And then I take a jump over, a 6th down, to the 9th of the chord, that's the E. I like those jumps, actually, they make everything so melodic. And then I play some arpeggio notes at the end. F, I jump down again to the A, that's another sixth interval of a sixth. And my target note is the seventh of the chord, that's the C. F, A, C. Right, and let's listen to the entire phrase at slow tempo. Now let's connect all the 4 lines together to create a nice 8-bar solo. You can use the 1 to 2 bar licks for anything. And the 8-bar solo you can use on modal songs, Dorian modal songs like So What or Impressions. Don't forget to watch my other videos on the Dorian scale. You get a suggestion up here right now. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the love. I see you next week. Bye bye. Servus.